next to schedules, you've got archives. They're really easy to use. It's a flat file system, so you just navigate to the show that you want. It's really, really cool. If you did miss her show, though, she was talking to Madeline Ruddy from Live in the Hologram. All right, Live in the Hologram, which is strangely appropriate, as we are going to touch on that today as well. Okay. Now, before we start broadcasting in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land. For Dave,
Darkajung.
For myself, the Dirac people, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Sorry, Dave. So Dave called me earlier, and then we go on mute because the show is about to start, and my Skype freezes, and I go, okay, that's not so good.
Well, in unison, mine dropped the call.
No way.
Yeah, completely. And then I couldn't get back to the call again.
Wow. Okay, so this is two events.
They're related. They happen at the same time.
Yeah, clearly they happen at the same time, but my entire Skype froze, right? So I had to restart Skype.
Yeah, that's what I had to do.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, this is... wow, all right. Hey, if you don't like our message, pay us off.
Yeah, I'd take cash.
I take vouchers, man. I don't care.
Food stamps. That's the large truck full of money coming.
How big is it? Big.
It's big, and there's a few of them.
Ooh, I like it. They're gonna close down my street. It's one. I live in a one street. So lock that street down is what they have to do. Lock it down.
Lock it down and bring the trucks.
Bring money. If any of the things that we say you don't like, don't tamper with our brake lines.
Yeah, don't do that again. That was bad.
Right?
Yes, yes, Pepsi. Just saying, answering your question.
I love the leader also.
I love the other leader more.
I love him in the dark and with the light on, whatever the leader wants, because it's a leader, right?
I loved the leader last night.
Yes, Pepsi, we are in IT. But that doesn't stop things from crashing.
No, that's true. Yeah.
I wish it did. I wish there was like a magic thing.
Just like you're a wizard, nothing can happen within a perimeter of you.
I know, how good would that be?
I know.
Here is your token, Mackie and Dave. What? It's the token of non-corruptibility. Anywhere you are, systems will work.
Have you tried turning it off and then gone again? Oh, that's done the trick. Thanks.
Omega Logos, you're 100% correct. Once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, and thrice enemy action, or as he puts it, or she, or he, I'm not sure actually.
Well,
thrice
Omega Logos is non-gender specific.
Yeah. So let me be clear here, and thank you, Solaris. Thank you. She just wished us a great show. Just let me be clear that this has happened more than thrice.
Yeah.
Okay, so not so much recently, or actually no, it has happened recently too. But this was the first time I think that both of us were down. Normally we just can't get to the station. That happens, and other times he might crash, I might crash. So different things. But this is the first time it affected both of us at the same time. Okay. The IT crowd. I love. You know why I love that show? The IT
Help! Crowd? Fire!
I know, right? Because I started my life in IT support, like on the ground, going to machines, like in office environment and fixing stuff. Right? I had got access to the system. It was awesome. I got paid nothing. Yeah. But I read everybody's email. Anyways, the point is because you can. Because the point, it's a thing you do, but it was great. So you do what you do, and then you support people, and the IT crowd is completely and 100% factual. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, and I like that there's no actual IT in the IT crowd. There is none.
I know, right?
Yeah, the automated machine does that answer question. Thanks, Pepsi, right? And the stories around it, because there's a lot of time. I think it's placed itself so well in modern day society. It certainly has every IT person on the planet loving it.
Oh yeah,
and the rest is just icing on the cake.
Completely. But look, it is timely to talk about these things.
I did work with a fellow that I would consider Moss.
Oh really?
Mm.
Do I know?
And I was no, you don't. And I was the Roy to him being Moss.
You're the wrong.
And everyone in the business saw that, because I'm kind of game show host Dave, right? And I had to be more a game show host Dave than I would normally be, because he was so Moss-like. A tremendous guy. He knew what he was doing. He had a brain in his head, and it was good times. I was just gonna say, right. Good times.
I want to share something that
wait. I did work at one place where there was a sign on the IT, like the comms room door, that said no eating. And on my first day, when I was the night IT manager at that site, and I looked at it, went, well, in my head, I'm thinking to myself, the only reason signs exist is because someone's done it. Yeah. And like the sign on the petrol bowser, on the actual nozzle that says "Do not put in mouth or anus," right? So someone had to put a sign on it, and so there's someone creating the sign going, "Oh, face palm," right? So the reason why was because someone used to just be found there. They couldn't be found anywhere else. Someone would look in the comms room and they'd find this guy eating in there. So
okay.
It's okay.
I was eating soup. Why not?
Soup. Yeah, that's right.
Spicy soup. Makes me spit out. No, actually. Okay,
remember the guy that used to be found in the comms cupboards?
I want to tell you a story about a data center. Not just the comms cupboard. This was in Singapore, right?
Uh-huh.
Like a whole floor. It was a big floor. Like I don't know. Big floor, all data centers. So it was like security up to the wazoo to get in there. So you had to get in there. It's it's double door, right, for starters, and as one door opens, the other closes. So as soon as
that's a vestibule, yeah.
Yeah, it's once you're in, okay, the door's closed. Now the other door will open, but before you get there, there's a guy behind, double glass, and you have to show your ID. You have to leave your telephone as well, and all kinds of things. And oh yeah, have you booked a visit? I've booked a visit. Okay, what's your name? This is my name. Show me some ID. Here's my ID. Very good. You can go in. And it's the whole thing, and it was also some biometric stuff, because some of the stuff you have to access, special.
Yeah. I'm going to back this up when you're done. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, and then so you go in there. That's Singapore, remember? So it was like next level, and this was like 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
And then you go to the other side of the data center, and there's a door. There's a fire exit, and it's propped open with a brick, so the guys can go out to smoke. And there's no one near it.
There's no security, nothing there, right?
Oh, I've got another one. Give me yours. Give me the thing, but then
give me your pass so I can get back in.
Well, I work here. Oh, okay then. No, what did you want to say? Because I got a better one than that.
Because I worked in a facility that had. I had to attend a facility. I didn't work specifically at this location, but I had to attend it. And there was the double vestibule armed guard keyed entry, nice, where you present your ID to the first person, and they let you in between the two armed, like I don't want to say which agency, right? Yeah. And then that person they check your ID, and they look at the other person. And together, they both have to turn the key to allow you to get to the next section. So you can't hold a gun to one of them because the other one will shoot you. And you can't hold the gun to one of them to think that they've got the access to get through. No, then they both shoot you, right? Right, so that's one. And the other one was the biometrics, where it measures your height and weight so that you can't walk out with gear.
Nice.
Yeah, very cool. So you had fingerprint and retina scan on one of the facilities that I also worked at. Crazy.
That is awesome.
It was such good tech, but I can't tell you where it was, and I can't tell you which agency.
No, you got to kill me. I understand.
Well, I had to kill you. Yeah. No, they think they would kill me. I think that's the way that goes.
And then just to be thorough, they'll travel back in time, make sure you never warned. And then you can't tell me, and I'm safe. Hurrah!
Sure, that makes you safe.
But I'll tell you something else about security. So again, Singapore, right? Now I knew this guy was like a account exec or whatever.
By the way, we can do this for about 8 hours.
Yeah, but this is the last one. Then we get into the show, I promise. But this is funny. So you know a few people, and you know a couple of people in the Australian embassy as well. So you used to go there for barbecues and such, which was cool, right?
Yeah.
And so the Australian embassy is right next to the American embassy. Now the Australian embassy is just you walk in and how you doing. It's like some security, but not really anything to write home about. And like anyone is going to attack the Australian embassy in Singapore, that's just
good luck.
What's the point? But like
there's a case of beer in the comms room to make it cold. Yep.
Yeah, propping open the door. And a sausage singer.
Nice.
But next to it is the American embassy. That's
yes.
and a half. That's good. Tank-proof glass and pillboxes. And I'm sure they got some kind of razor wire that comes and shreds you to pieces when you're going the wrong way. There's Marines with submachine guns. Assault rifles.
Assault rifles.
Serious. Yeah, this is serious security. Like American, you'd expect. No, this is the kicker though. In the back, like both properties are next to each other. There's a fence between them, and there's just like a garden door between the fence, which is usually propped open so the Americans can come and have Barbies with the Aussies.
Nice.
There you go. I've given it away now.
do you know what's interesting, Mackie? When I first went to the States, I discovered one thing, and that was the word facade. It wasn't important in my life until I went to California, where everything is a facade. Yeah. The beautiful presentation of people's lawns. Oh, you can't walk on it. Why? Oh, because it's not actually grass. You see, it's a little plant with a single leaf, and if you walk on it, you kill it. Right? The hedges back then were immaculate. You see, presentation is everything. And the first bite's with the eye. So I noticed that everything was, as opposed to here, when I was growing up in the same time frame, here was completely different. We didn't care so much for the facade if the things inside were pretty good. Not that it was decrepit, just that there wasn't that importance put out there. Right now, a car yard will have a 30-meter tall, branding thing, like it's a monolith almost on its own, right? Well, we never used to do that, and a lot of that was taken from how we've learnt from America and how they present, what their presentability is for their business and their product and ownership and anyway. So when I went to Universal Studios, there isn't anything behind the facade.
There you go.
And the hollowness that taught me was that it is in the facade it is truly hollow behind. It doesn't matter what you're selling, what you're presenting. The fake grass on the lawn, it looks photo perfect, but it's useless. So what is behind the facade? And I think that'll lend really well into the second hour of our show.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. That's a nice segue. But look, a few things have happened, and we like to start off on a light note too.
Oh, that was a light note. Yeah,
and fool you. It was a lightish note. Ish.
Yes.
There are a few things happening, and Dave has got a few things. I've got a few things. Why don't you kick it off, my friend? But it's just been nuts in Australia, at least.
Look, you're absolutely right there. So, I'll start with this one, and I've not found the news article yet, but I will at some point find it. And it surprised me, Mackie. And there was an Australian high school principal. Let's just say it's a principal of a school, so I can't be wrong. All right?
Right. Yeah, let's do it.
Right? Because I'm sure it was Australia and gender and fire it. I think they're the important words here. Okay. Yes, I found it. Here we go. So at least I can put it on the screen, and I can say this is City Point with an E at the end. Christian college principal steps down over anti-gay contract. what had actually happened was he asked that each of the students' parents sign a contract which he'd written himself. All of the ownership of this contract appears to be him. I'm not naming him. I'm not doing anything like that. What I'm suggesting here was he's actually stood down. It says he stepped down, but there's a greater discussion going on at the moment. So what he asked the people to do was sign a contract with the school that suggested that there was only two genders, and that's it, male, female. The rest of it didn't exist, and they were to acknowledge that statement is true, and done. So no trans, no gay, no lesbian. Now, I'm not sure what that does for the student collective, the student base. That if some parents had already signed it, is that they either believed it or they didn't want their children to be removed from school for not signing it. So there's kind of like a double-edged sword there.
Yeah. Either way, though, is a
we can't count the motive.
Bad.
Of
But
who and who did.
If you do it because you agree, then fair enough, and we know who you are.
That's fine. Yep.
But if you do it because you're afraid that there might be repercussions if you don't, that's just like marching along in goose step. Hey, up the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 step along, 1, 2. So you have to exercise your civic duty.
Yeah. So in the article that you can find at news.com.au, Ali Foster is the writer of it, and it said the contract also branded homosexuality sinful, offensive, and destructive, and lumped it into the same category as pedophilia and incest. So now I'm going to hand it to go. You've got the mic.
No, there's actually a larger context around this.
Mm-hmm.
In Australia, we are meant to pass this religious non-discrimination bill, which gives religious institutions, organizations, schools, etc., the right to act in the belief that they hold dear, right? So the Christian school, therefore, would be allowed to ask students not to be openly gay or transgender or whatever. For example, it's just an example. So that's what the government promised. Now it looks like that might not happen. And I listened to a lot of commentary around this. And I guess, Dave, that's what happened in Brisbane, you said?
Yeah, that was in Brisbane, yeah.
I think that's on the back of that.
Oh, I see. Right.
I think, right.
Yeah, okay.
Because this is the debate right now that's raging. And essentially, Scott Morrison, much to my surprise, said, "No, we're not going to do that." And then, if you're gay, then that's okay. You shouldn't be. Nobody can be expelled or fired from a school or other business that is religiously run. Right? That's Christian, Muslim, or Jewish, or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Look, there's no difference if you had a men's club or a women's gym. You're immediately filtering your clientele, and they are acceptable filters. Yes. Yeah. So if a school wishes to do that, I think they take that within their own hands, whether they want to have people in a group that believe that whatever the contract is. It's just like if you become employed somewhere and you signed a contract that says that you will work, 92 hours a week. Mm-hmm. If you've agreed to that, as long as you weren't under duress, then sure, right? I don't know whether I'm at odds with the contract or the stance that it placed the participants of the school. I don't know which one I'm more at odds with. Because the free choice of free speech is there an Australian law or anything that would be going against, or is this the morals of the community?
We don't have a Bill of Rights per se, right?
No.
So it's very slightly different. But this is the thing, though, right? As I was listening to the debate, and a lot of conservative religious people said, look, all we are, he sort of painted himself in a corner, this one specific guy, and reporter kept asking questions, and like she wanted to expose what he really thought. And she said, well, what if you are gay? What if you're a gay child in school, like and what do you do? Well, you don't express it. You don't express it. You don't acknowledge it. You hide it in the closet. That's what you do. And we know that the psychological impact on children is horrendous, driving some to suicide, because it's as a teenager, you're fragile anyway, right? You're fragile because you're trying to find out, your hormones are changing. Who are you? What do you want to do? Friends are important. How does my peer group see me, etc., etc. And you put that loaded thing on top of that where it says, you can't do that because you're wrong. Now, I want to say something which is going to make, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of hate.
Here we go.
That's okay. You keep on hating me. That's fine. There isn't actually a passage specifically, and certainly nothing that Jesus said. I don't want to be very specific about that. That says that homosexuality is in any way bad. It's not a deadly sin, for starters, right? Homosexuality is not a deadly sin, and they're only inferences, right? Now, there's this one story, and this is where sodomy comes from. Back in the day, Sodom and Gomorrah were two cities, and there was a guy called Lot. But Sodom and Gomorrah had sinned against God or whatever. They were God wasn't very happy with those two cities,
and they were slated for destruction.
They were slated, we were slated for demolition. 5:30 a.m. It was in the planning office. You didn't come over. What did you do? I don't care.
The plans are in the unlit basement. In a locked filing cabinet on public display.
That's right. So, but what God did, he sent a couple of angels down to extract Lot and his family, because Lot was a righteous man and so was his family. So they went down there to get him. And it was getting late, so they stayed overnight to get his family out, because his entire family came out, like his wife, his kids, their spouses, blah blah blah. So they decided to go in the morning, but the inhabitants of Sodom blocked them out and said, "Oh no," and then they tried to lie with them because they were so attractive, I guess. That was
the term used then to suggest intimacy.
Correct, and that's where the term sodomy comes from, right?
Yeah,
from the city of Sodom. And then anyway, so they blinded them, and they all made the angels. They blinded the
turned
crowd.
Into salt.
No, just blinded them, and then they went out of the city, and then the angel said, "Don't look back."
Yeah.
Right. If you look back, we're gonna leave you here, but you can keep running into the hills. But if you look back, you're gonna turn into salt. So don't look back, right? And so they went to the hills, and of course Lot's wife, turned around and
curious
promptly turned
creature she was.
Yeah, curiosity killed the cat. It was turned into a pillar of salt. And there are a couple of other inferences as well, but there's nothing specific in any religion, for that matter, believe it or not, that says it's bad. Now, I personally, I'm heterosexual, but that shouldn't bother anyone or matter to anyone what I do in my own privacy, as long as you're all consenting.
Yeah, that's always been my thought. Is that as long as I don't need to know what your preferences are, you don't need to tell me about it. I'm happy with who you are.
Yeah, don't care.
Be a nice person.
But you see, and we've seen, in fact, during ancient times, like 2,000 years ago, some such, that was quite a normal thing.
Yeah.
People were omnisexual, more or less, if you're going to call it that, where, no one really gave it a second thought. I mean, well, this is what you do. This is just what you do. Okay, well, I do this and you do this, but maybe I also want to try and dabble in that. And that's just what happened. I mean, there were many other things to worry about other than the sexual orientation back in those days. It's a fairly recent thing, this morality and this narrow-minded Puritanism that we're all now living under and suffering under. Now, there's also actually a metaphysical reason for this. There are secret societies that believe that a certain act will open the third eye, believe it or not. And that's why you see a lot of that kind of stuff happening. It's a thing. Look, perhaps you're right. In Sparta, it was actually the encouraged. It was the common way of life, where an old warrior would take a younger lover and become his patron, if you will, take him under his wing, and they would only really mix with the women in order to procreate. That was sort of the thing that was happening in Sparta back then, and nobody.
And also the berserk warriors.
Yeah.
If one of them was slain in battle, the other would go absolutely crazy.
Yeah. Look, that absolutely right. And again, it is. I mean, that's why they think Achilles got so upset with what was his name? Achilles. Who did he kill? I can't remember now, but he killed the son of the king of Troy because he killed his cousin. Now some historians believe that wasn't his cousin; it was his lover. Doesn't matter. Point is that was a normal thing back then, right? And but nobody gave a second thought. We do seem to care though, and this is where we are. And there are many other things to worry about, in my opinion, than that. Again, do what you want, consenting, people, and do what you need. Don't care. But that's where we are right now in our debate in Australia, and this is where all this stuff is coming up, Dave.
Yeah, that's right. But remember, I'm just gonna back out of that. It's all good. I wanted to move on to Whoopi Goldberg, only to mention what happened to Whoopi in the last week. It's odd that she should have said this, but on The View during the week, Whoopi Goldberg has now been suspended for 2 weeks for saying that the Holocaust was not about race. She did end up then agreeing that it was wrong and harmful, and she had another person apologize and try to talk what she said down. But given the people on The View, she is speaking to. There's a Jewish lady on there who may not have appreciated that the Holocaust was not about race. But what I believe Whoopi was talking to was there was been 2 amendments to what race means. So one of those was it painted people as being just bad to each other. Any 2 differences bad to each other, and then there was sorry, that's the new one, and the one prior to that in the US was that it was a racial thing. Now, what she was trying to say was black hate, right?
Yeah.
And her point that she was attempting to make, but rather poorly, was that just there's a lot of black hate in the world, and then she brought up the Holocaust. Then I was watching her brain trying to figure out how to include this now in the conversation, and she just really did it quite poorly. Now I'm kind of a fan of Whoopi's early work, like on Star Trek and when she's that nun, right? In both of those movies and the second one, but for her to do this, and she's on air. Right, she should probably know better. Yeah.
I've got something in her defense when you finish my Steam.
Yeah. So anyway, we don't know what's going to happen to Whoopi afterwards. There is a lot of discussion coming from the right and the left, whether they're defending her or not defending her, and that I think to everybody's surprise, unless you Google it, you'll find it. But I think her name is Karen Johnson.
Well. Nobody would call that child Whoopi Goldberg.
No, and it was, I think her comedian name was initially Whoopi Cushion, and then she changed that. She chose Goldberg. And now a lot of people who are saying, yes, I know, a lot of people are saying that she sympathizes with the Jews anyway, because she chose to have her surname as Goldberg, which is a typically Jewish name. So
correct.
And all of that is kind of working in a favor rather than maybe her getting fired. But the problem is, if you're in a cancel culture and you request people to get cancelled for the slightest of wordings of things, and then you want to be excluded from that when you do it, true. I think that there's a hypocrisy here. It's hypocritical for her not to be cancelled in that status, since she's asked for others to, publicly on air, requesting people get cancelled. So, look, I think we'll wait to see what happens.
Yeah, look, that's fair. But having said that, I mean, I'm a really I'm really strongly against the cancel culture. I mean, we have got a history. We need to understand the history. We can't just ignore it or make it like it never happened.
Yeah.
And I'm also against taking down monuments, even statues of be it of Lee or Stalin or whatever.
Washington,
I mean, you leave them there. Yeah, but you leave them there. You leave all of that there, but you understand it.
Yeah.
Right? You understand it as a reminder. Now, two things about Whoopi Goldberg's Holocaust reference. So the word Holocaust itself is actually a Jewish term.
What does it mean?
It means well, back in the olden days, like we're talking like Torah Talmud times. It means a sacrificial offering that was burned completely on an altar. Okay, sacrificial offering. That's what it means. Holocaust. However, the earliest use of the word Holocaust to denote a massacre, like a massive killing, by the Oxford English Dictionary dates from 1833, when the journalist Ritchie, describing the wars of Louis VII of France, wrote that he once made a Holocaust of 1,300 persons in a church, a massacre by fire rather of the inhabitants of some village. So the word the Holocaust was used to describe massacre as early as that, nothing to do with Jews whatsoever. We just, and it has been, we could talk about the nuclear Holocaust, for example, right? Holocaust just means a massive killing of people, really, in that sense. We do call the Holocaust, obviously because, 6 million Jews were killed, but there were several other million people killed as well in that genocide that the Germans inflicted upon the world. So the word Holocaust itself is not exclusively used for the genocide during World War II. It is just a word, right? And you can expand it. And it was used 100 years before the Jewish Holocaust in World War II ever happened, right? So let's be clear, when we do talk about this, we need to understand the entire context.
Yes.
Make sense?
I would completely understand. Mm-hmm.
That's it. So yes, did she do a smart thing? No, she didn't do a smart thing, but she didn't do a thing that was completely wrong either. I mean, it's just a word, right? You can extend the term.
Yeah, I hope that it all turns out for the best. I wanted to say, that the death toll in Australia in the last week, ending the 30th, the week ending the 30th of January, was 612. And these numbers aren't being discussed. Just want to put it out there. There's some crazy numbers coming with, with infections that we're not tracking anymore because we have a tracking app, but you can't get tested anywhere. The rat test, what happens? What do you do? They said that it's probably rampant, probably 12 times the amount. And even the Queensland Premier said something like, it's possible that half of the Brisbane area, the Gold Coast area has it. It's crazy. The numbers are crazy. And now we're so tired of hearing about the virus that it's just not a thing anymore. No one really cares. I think is it lethargy?
Yeah, or apathy maybe.
Apathy, yeah. Well, no, we're kind of tired from hearing about it for so long. So too soon. Yeah.
There's a sensory. I mean, there's an overload. Too soon, too real. Sorry, guys. Pepsi. Don't care. I hear you though.
Anyway, so look, I just want to say that the numbers are very large, and we have total in the world claimed on the Johns Hopkins University website of 5.7 million dead, and the death rate's actually still on the rise of 706,000 per week globally. 706,000. Wow. This is, Meki, we spoke about a long cleansing.
Yes, it is.
Well, it just keeps going. Yeah.
Well, look, this. I know it's going to sound very callous, but what it is doing right now, right? If we can believe the numbers and the reports, right? Always a caveat. Can we believe it? It gets rid of the old people, specifically in the Western world, which means, of course, that pension funds won't be as stressed as they were predicted to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you've got millions of people dying, and a lot of them are old, right? Especially in Western Europe and America and such, then you won't have that stress on the pension funds when time comes to retire, because most of the people are dead. What I'm worried about is the reduction in births that I think is likely to occur.
That's on our horizon, isn't it?
Yeah, 5 to 15 years, and I'm with who's this in the Harry the busker. Look, yeah, I would like to, rather than bulldozing the Georgia Guidestones, I'd like to know who's behind them.
Yeah,
and I want to understand. I'm happy to wipe out the monument altogether. I want to wipe out the movement that put it there, because if we are going to 500 million people on this planet, right? Not through a massive killing off, but rather through reduction in the birth control. I want to know who put it up. I want to go after those folk. That's what I want, to be honest with you. I mean, that is a horrendous kind of thing. I mean,
as part of the movement that's perpetrating that.
Yeah, but it's also completely unnecessary. So people have always argued. We've done a show on this. I mean, how many people can actually live on this planet, right? I mean, we've discussed this at length. Now the answer is all almost 8 billion that we have now, not quite, but almost, could live very comfortably in relative prosperity if we had a different economic system, right? So I this is what I don't understand, Dave. I don't get it. Now let me ask you this. Maybe you can explain it to me, and maybe I'll listen. Why are we defending the billionaires, the gazillionaires? Why do we think that is a good thing? Why do we lift them up into hero status when it is clearly no longer sustainable for this planet to have people like that exist? We cannot afford to have wealth concentrated in single people or organizations like the Catholic Church. Well, again, you can hate me if you like, but it is no longer ethically or morally excusable to have things like that exist when we have people dying of starvation, of disease, of unclean water, whatever. If we all, and I'm not talking about communism either, it doesn't have to be communism, I'm probably talking more like a Star Trek type of society where we don't encourage greed, we encourage endeavor and exploration and education, right? All the things that we should encourage in us. Rather than greed.
I see the transition from right now to that as very, very long and purposefully staged. How do you get to endeavor-driven from this?
Yeah,
that's a tremendous question. It's rhetorical because I'm not really asking you to solve it, but my goodness me, there would have to be something very large that toppled the parasitic class, and changed this world forever.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I was actually talking to one of my friends during the week, and I was talking about how, this is something we talk about all the time, Becky, and just for the audience, the parasitic class get to a certain value. If you're walking up the ladder, you're climbing up the ladder and you're earning money and suddenly you're up there. Are you the parasitic class? Are you the controlling class? Which one is an echelon above that too? But as long as when you hit a certain amount of money, I don't care if it's $1 billion or whatever, right? There's certainly a threshold at which you reach an amount of money where you realize you've only got a certain amount of years left. So you might have only 30 years left. And you go, how do I stay here? How do I personally stay here, not my family? How do I stay in power?
Yep.
Longevity, my friend.
Absolutely.
So with $1 billion, that think about what there was in the development of an mRNA vaccine. Some CRISPR technology could get you there. Just saying. Yeah. There's TA65. That was the thing, the Nobel Prize won for that invention.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the telomerase, and being able to consume something to produce telomerase. You could do something like that, and I don't put it past them to do that.
Mm.
Right? So I think the reckoning that we have right now is, well, I'm not asking that I'm not inciting people to do anything, but I think it's a good question to see how could we get to an endeavor civilization rather than a profit civilization, because it seems to be disadvantaging a whole bunch of people.
That's it.
Back to Meki in the studio.
No, but look, this must become our primary concern as we move forward in the world. If we have any hope of stopping any of the things that have been planned for us that are lying in store, which are now being executed, guys, we're no longer talking hypotheticals. All the things that a whole bunch of people have been talking about for a long time now, they are now in execution mode. Things we're seeing unfold. So let me be very clear. The execution mode started on September 11, 2001. Right? For all intents and purposes, that's when things really started moving. I mean, there were some activities before that, but it started in anger, September 11, 2001. That's when that was the big game changer globally. Okay? The world was very different on September 12th. It's a very different world. So the question becomes, what do you do? Right? We are in the middle. We are in the middle of activities that are going to come to a certain outcome. We've been talking about this kind of outcome for a long time now, but that's where we're going. It's not inevitable, but we have to do something.
Well, the reset, the reset is from the WEF, is the accelerator pedal being pushed.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the Great Reset, ultimately, it would make control a lot easier if you don't have anything. You're at the mercy of the state. And that in all but name is fascism/communism. Because all the isms will just blend into one. I mean, all an ism does is control you, okay? If it's communism, capitalism, fascism, you might not see it in capitalism. You think, oh, no, I'm good. I can do whatever I want.
Orwellianism.
Yeah, but you can't. Okay, you can. In fact, capitalism is dead anyway, right? We're no longer in capitalism. We're living in fascism because the government is now propping up private business, with the taxpayers' money, and that's fascism. So, but even when capitalism was alive and well, it encouraged the banking system, encouraged free markets, and the problem, of course, is that completely unregulated markets encourage monopolies and the creation of billionaires. That's what happens, right? And make no mistake, and I know people might not want to believe this, but people that get to that level of wealth, rarely. Not saying it can't happen, but rarely get there lily white, meaning without any dirt on them, right, or any blood on their hands. Very rarely. And be it metaphorical blood or real blood, you look at how these fortunes were built. Look at the kings and queens of today, right? And then by extension, look at the massive corporations and how they came about, right? There's a lot of blood. It was just the most ruthless and fiercest person was usually a king, right? They had killed everybody else and they became king or queen, as it were, and that's how they started their royal lineages. And then there was intrigue and others got killed, and it's not a happy story. It's not they lived happily ever after, or the prince marries the princess and then they become king and queen and happily ever after. No, there's always someone waiting in the shadows, and there's always skullduggery and murder afoot when it comes to things like this. It's no different today in the corporations. You think people sit down and talk rationally and come to the best outcome? Oh yes, we should do this because that's the best outcome for everyone, Dave. That's what we should do. I think so. Kumbaya, kumbaya. No. It doesn't happen. It's not a thing.
I got my ukulele out.
Okay, hurrah! It's a dog eat dog world, and we've made it that way. Or we let it happen that way at the very least, and that's the truth of it. Okay, there's no way hiding, and we cannot. I mean, we cannot have billionaires. We can't, and we can't have these massive institutions or corporations, that are literally pillaging the planet or pillaging the people. Either way, both actually, most of the time.
Yeah, they don't discuss how deep, how long those vacuum hoses are into our society, vacuuming all the money out of it.
Yeah, I mean it's astounding. It's always been the Catholic Church in Germany gets 10% of your paycheck if you're a member of the Catholic Church. So my mother left the Catholic Church. I don't want to be 10% of my paycheck. So 10% of your pay. This is before tax, right? So 10%. This is before the government taxes you. The church comes in and takes 10%. Thank you very much. For what? For what?
Because they need the money, Mickey.
They need the money to save my souls. My souls, they're burning. I tell you, I'm getting old now, right? And I'm cranky, and I've got an opinion on everything. And Dave and I discussed this, and he told
That's right.
He's now at the age where he's got an opinion on everything. But you know what? We've seen a lot and experienced a lot, and there's not much other than we have to change. We have to change. We cannot keep going the way we are. It's not possible.
Oh, but there's ways of changing it, Mickey. I'm just going to throw this in because it's a topic that my friend and I were talking about: weather wars. So the moment there's a technology to control weather in any way, shape, or form, which we already know that HARP exists, right? That everyone would be using it against each other in this soft war, it's better than browbeating and diplomatic speak. You just do something to them, to the opposition, using some weather. Yeah. Escalated storms. Or what about this endless rain that we've been having for 4 months?
No, that's just La Nina.
Yeah, that's right. You can call it whatever you want. So I'm convinced, from what I can see around the world, that we've got underway a weather war going on. Because remember that I say this because of the exit of World War II, the American generals who said it, we really need to be able to control the weather. I'm paraphrasing it poorly. But that's the thing that if they'd been able to control the weather, the outcomes would have been much swifter. And so I believe now, I think there was at least 50 the last time I checked, weather manipulation companies registered within the US. HARP has come and gone as a project, but now is a living thing. And I've got evidence of it being used off Australia's coast to control storms, to try and blow the wind out of a storm. I've got Doppler data that shows it. Right? So if we're using it in a soft way to protect ourselves from a storm, you could only imagine that the people, with their finger on the button, Simpson-esque quote, that would be using it against their foes. If they had reach, right? So, goodness me. I think everything else is going on. Everyone's hacking everyone. Everyone's listening to everyone. All communications, every cell phone. Crazy. You don't know the level at which this is occurring right now on everyone's person, though it seems completely invisible. I'm not saying this isn't, I'm just going to defend myself here, because this isn't, dark matter and string theory. It can never be proven. We'll never have a technology to prove string theory.
I just want to say here, I love the leader a lot, in the dark or with the light on. I don't care. I love the leader.
You know what? The leader has to submit to the AI, and that's who I love. I love the AI. The AI makes everything better.
I love whoever requires the loving. It's okay. I'm there. And if you don't like it, I can change. What?
That was cross line then, and clearly it was the AI and the leader both listening in, loving this. I want the AI to hear all of my broadcasts and to understand just how much I feel connected to the AI.
I want to change your oil and gears. I will love it.
Well, yes. All right. I don't want to touch any of those other things. I've always made myself available to the leader.
I live to serve. Top that.
I live to serve more.
Plus one.
That's what. Oh, you got me.
Hey,
3x plus 1. That's all I'll say.
It's killing me.
Yeah, 3x plus 1. Fibonacci. So, all right. So, look, this is. We've only got 2 minutes left. Mackie, why don't you round it out?
Round anything you like, my friend, especially for the leader.
For the leader, yes.
No, look, as we've said now for a long time, it is our society, our civilization is completely unsustainable. Unless something drastic happens, we are on a slippery slope to doom. And this is not any crazy talk. This is very clear now. I mean, you just have to open your eyes and see what's going on in the world on any level, social, political, environmental, culturally, naturally. All these things are coming together to paint a very bleak picture. Will technology come and save us? That'd be nice. We need a massive game-changing event, right? Massive. If there was a massive game changer coming our way, then we have a way out, right? That's what we need. Because the way things are going, we're going the way of the Roman Empire. Only we're going to take the whole world with us because we just can't change gears.
So, a meteor impact, a global war, these are huge things.
Aliens.
That would do it.
Aliens.
Yeah. That would be sufficient for change, because there wouldn't be much left for that to have to change. You wouldn't be forcing anyone. It'd just be a brave new world. Yeah.
That's the music.
Nice. Well, this has been another Shiny Side Out. We're going to see you after the short break for the show topic, which is coming up next. Episode 516.